Okay, let's unpack this common feeling. Have you ever felt like, you know, you understand English grammar okay? You've got a decent vocabulary. But then when a native speaker talks, it's still kind of a struggle.
Oh, definitely. That's a classic frustration, right, for so many learners.
Yeah. It's like your brain knows the rules, but it just can't keep up with the real thing.
Exactly. You've studied hard, but understanding real speed conversation feels just, just out of reach sometimes.
Right.
And the source material we're digging into for this deep dive has a really interesting perspective on why that might be happening.
Okay, yeah. So our deep dive today really zeroes in on something maybe overlooked, but potentially powerful. Listening. We're pulling insights from this specific excerpt. It's titled Boost English with Listening.
Right.
And our mission basically is to understand why this source says listening is so fundamental. And maybe more importantly, what simple steps it suggests you can take to actually improve.
And what's really stressed here is that listening, well, it isn't passive. It's not just sound hitting your ear.
Okay.
The source describes it as really active. It says training your ear is, in effect, training your brain in a very specific way.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that hearing helps, but training the brain, like a workout. What does the source say about how that happens?
Well, it's all about pattern recognition, really. As you listen more, your brain starts absorbing the music of English.
The music.
Yeah, like not just single words, but how they link together, the natural rhythm, the intonation, the subtle stresses people use. It's learning the soundscape, English as it's actually spoken, not just how it looks written down.
And the source seems pretty clear about the payoff for doing this kind of brain work. It lists some specific results from this active listening.
Absolutely. According to this material, you'll start understanding different native accents much better. That's a big one.
Yeah.
You'll start recognizing common phrases, those everyday expressions, almost instantly. And crucially, it says your ability to sort of anticipate what someone might say next gets better.
Oh, that's key. That reduces that feeling of being lost, I bet.
Exactly. It boosts your confidence because you're more tuned in.
Now, here's something I found really interesting. The source mentions a kind of surprising bonus. Improving your listening helps your speaking too.
Yeah. It might seem a bit backwards at first glance.
Right.
But the reason, as the source explains it, is actually pretty simple. When you're actively listening, you're constantly hearing correct pronunciation, the natural rhythm, the right tone for different situations, where people naturally put the stress in sentences.
So it's like your brain's building this huge audio library of how English should sound.
Precisely. And just like, how babies learn to talk by mimicking the sounds around them.
Yeah.
You start to internalize those patterns and kind of naturally start using them in your own speech. Listening builds the foundation.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You hear it done right, it helps you do it right.
You got it.
So if listening is this powerful, what does the source actually suggest you do?
It gives some practical methods, right? Pretty simple ones for daily practice.
Yes, and they're really not complicated. Things you might already be doing or could easily start, like listening to English podcasts.
Like this one, perhaps.
Maybe. Or watching TV shows, YouTube videos. Maybe start with subtitles on.
Right.
And then maybe challenge yourself later, try turning them off. See what you catch.
And it also mentions something called shadowing.
Yeah, shadowing, which the source basically describes as repeating what you hear almost like an echo, mimicking the sounds, the rhythm, right after you hear it.
So really actively engaging your mouth with the sounds.
Exactly. It connects the listening and the speaking muscles, so to speak.
But the key point, it seems, isn't how complex the method is.
No, not at all.
It's the consistency.
That's what they really emphasize. Even just say 10 minutes a day, but doing it consistently over time, that adds up significantly.
So if you connect this back to your goals, maybe you want to boost your understanding or feel more confident in conversations or just make your speaking sound more natural.
Yeah.
This source makes a strong case that focusing on listening, really actively listening, is a super effective place to start.
So wrapping this up then, the core message from this source seems to be start with your ears. Really commit to active listening. The more you expose your brain to real English sounds, patterns, the music of it, the more you'll understand.
And that understanding directly builds your confidence. It paves the way for speaking more naturally, more fluently.
And it's important to remember, right? You are improving with every bit you listen. even if you don't always notice it day to day.
Absolutely. Progress isn't always linear, but it's happening.
Okay, so given these practical, pretty simple methods the source talked about,
Yeah.
here's something for you, the listener, to think about right now. What specific 10-minute listening practice, based on what we've just discussed from the source, will you commit to doing today, just to start training that ear?